Hello, 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 and welcome. Now, I'm looking forward to talking with you about Paul McCartney's Dream today. It's Caroline Chapman. And please, in the chat, just tell me who you are. Make sure that you can hear me speaking. Say, yes, you can hear me speaking. And also, if you want, tell me where you're from. Now, I'm assuming that everyone knows who Paul McCartney is, but just in case you don't know, he is a world renowned musician and composer, and he was part of the Fab Four Beatles in the 1960s at a time when the world went through a music revolution. And it was when electronic instruments started. And there had been jazz before, but now there was this total new rock and roll sound. And the Beatles were like in the forefront of that. So he is now a Sir James Paul McCartney. He was born June 18th, 1942, in Liverpool, England. And when I look over here, it's just to let you know that I'm looking at my notes to make sure that I think of everything. So now, something I didn't know about him was that he taught himself how to play instruments and like the piano, the guitar, and also songwriting. The other thing I didn't know about him was that his dad was a jazz musician. Now, after the Beatles disbanded, he formed a new band called Wings, and they, I believe, still exist and have been going strong ever since. Now, interestingly enough, I saw the Beatles at Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto many years ago, and I was there with my absolute best friend, bosom buddy, Nancy, and we vowed we wouldn't scream like all the other girls, but we were so sedate at first. But after a while, we were leaving around in our seats and screaming and everything. And the interesting thing was that afterwards, we grew up in a small town. So Toronto was a big deal to be in Toronto, just the two of us. But Nancy seemed to be way more familiar with Toronto than I was. And she took me on the streetcar and the bus, and we ended up visiting her older brother, Paul. And it turned out he was a music critic for a newspaper, and she reported to him everything we'd seen. So I found out that he'd had a conflict with something else, and we were basically at this Beatles concert because he needed us to fill him in on what had happened, which she did in a very sedate way and didn't tell him how we were screaming and jumping around. Anyway, yesterday, he had this dream that ended up being one of the best known songs on earth called Yesterday. And this song has been re-recorded by many, many, many artists. And in 2012, the BBC reported that Yesterday remained the fourth most successful song of all time in terms of royalties paid. It's amassed a total of 19.5 million pounds, which is phenomenal. Now, interestingly enough, this dream that Paul McCartney had, he woke up from the dream, and in interviews, he described how he stumbled towards the piano that was in his room and started to play right away because he knew, like all of us have experienced, that if you don't get it down, you're going to lose it. So he right away began to play the song on the piano. And I think what concerned him the most was that he would get the correct pitch. And I believe it was an F. So he played it and played it and played it, half asleep because he'd just woken up with the song in his mind. And he kept playing it until he could remember. Now, after that, he was concerned that maybe it was someone else's song and he'd just been singing it in his mind when he woke up. I mean, do you have that happen to you? I often have a song in the back of my mind. So it makes sense that he would be afraid that when he woke up, that it wasn't even his song, it was someone else's. But he evidently checked out with various people that should know, and they said, no, it was brand new. So it was something brand new that came out of his dream. And now, all that he got in the dream was just the melody, the song, the tune, nothing else, no words, nothing else. And most of the Beatles songs were written by both Paul and John Lennon together, but this was entirely Paul's song, even though it had to be labeled that it was a Lennon McCartney song, just because that was their arrangement between them. This song was actually entirely Paul McCartney's. So the thing is, it needed some words. Now, this is going to give you a good example of the interaction between the subconscious mind and the conscious mind, because it's the subconscious mind that brings creative inspirations forward, but it's the conscious mind that does the editing or figuring things out. So Paul got this melody. He's now played the piano. He's got it in his memory. He knows that song. The problem is, what kind of words is he going to put to it? And it took about a year and a half before he got the words for it. And he did get suggestions from other members in the group, which also included George Harrison and Ringo Starr, and of course, John Lennon. And as was there, the way they usually did things was that until they knew exactly what a song was going to be, they gave it some sort of cute name. And this one, I think, was called Scrambled Eggs. And that's what it stayed for a long time until they realized that they had to have a name for the title, and they decided it would just be one word. And it was actually John Lennon that came up with Yesterday. So now we're talking about the creative process in the conscious mind when you're awake. So this is thinking things through, having ideas, talking things through. This is my idea. No, that won't work. This won't work, whatever. But Paul, in interviews, did say that he really liked Yesterday, the word, because the ending sound is an A sound, and that's a really easy sound to rhyme. So, of course, it's yesterday. Oh, my toes seem so far away. Now it looks as if they're here to stay. So he could rhyme those. Now, the other interesting thing is that I read on Wikipedia when they were talking about Yesterday there. So there was all this going on for about a year and a half. They finally got the title, then they were working on what does the rest of it mean, what are the words are going to be. And it says that evidently during a trip to Portugal in 1965, Paul woke up. So again, it came out of a dream. And I don't think he actually had a dream. It was more like a download from his subconscious. And everything they'd been working on till then, the lyrics for the song, the title, everything came together one day when he was in Portugal and he woke up. So what can you learn about this? All right. In interviews, Paul McCartney said that soon as he woke up with that song, he stumbled to the piano, and the piano was in the room with him. It's not like he had to go find it somewhere or go to a studio. It was right there in the room where he was sleeping. And I have talked before about how to remember your dreams. And I said it's so important. Here's my dream journal, to keep your dream journal right beside you on your bedside table when you're sleeping, so you can write down the dream before it slides away forever to oblivion. Well, it was the same thing for Paul McCartney. He'd gotten this wonderful melody, but he knew that if he didn't get it down, he'd lose it. And basically, what that's about is taking it out of the subconscious mind and putting it into your conscious life. So if you're a musician, I would suggest that you have your musical instruments somewhere nearby, because you never know when you're going to wake up with a song. And it might not be only the melody, it might be the whole thing. You just don't know. These things come out of the subconscious mind. I have this experience I've told you before in a previous live stream, that this year, January 4th, I woke up and I had like a download. It wasn't so much dreams as a download of about 4 video scripts about what videos to make in the future. So it's reasonable that whatever you're thinking about in your waking life could likely come up in your dreams or in your subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is really great at working out problems and solving things that you can't solve in your conscious mind. They come up with ideas you didn't think of, that maybe didn't make sense, that you wouldn't even go in that direction. So I would suggest, if you are musically inclined, that you keep some way of expressing what might come out in a dream right away. And something funny is that I once woke up with a song. And I'm not a musician, but I right away went and got my phone and sang into the phone. And now I can't even find out where it is, but I would have played it for you. But it was probably just something that I'd heard somewhere. Now, I just want to encourage you to take your dreams seriously, because this particular live stream today is part of a series of people who have are way more famous than you and me, and who therefore we know about their special dreams. But all of us have these special dreams about our lives. And most of the time, dreams are just based on whatever's going on the day before. But every once in a while, you get these super inspired dreams that can be ever so helpful in your life. Now, if you've enjoyed this and found some benefit from it, please give me a like. And also, if you're not subscribed, I'd love it if you subscribed. Great being here with you. Toodaloo.